Hello everyone, I invite you to every Wednesday cryptocurrency review. However, we will start today's review by checking the situation of BTC dominance in relation to the entire market. And here we can mark with the blue lines the sideways trend channel in which we are approaching the upper limit. At this point, it is worth looking at the CHOP index, which indicates that the energy has been used. However, when we look at the RSI indicator, we can see that we have strongly exceeded the upper limits of the range. Looking at these two values, we can expect a rebound in capital transfer to other altcoins. Now we can move on to marking the places of support in the event of a correction. And here in the first place we have support at 45.5%, then support is at 44.3%, 43.2%, and then 42%. Looking the other way, we will also denote the resistance for BTC dominance, and here we see that significant resistance is at 48.4% at the upper border of the channel. However, when we go higher we can see a rapid increase to around 54.4%. Now let's move on to checking the current situation on the BTC to USDT pair, taking into account the longer perspective on the one-day timeframe. First, we will use the blue lines to mark the sideways trend channel from which the price has gone up. It is also worth marking with a yellow line the downtrend line that has been overcome. Now we can move on to marking the places of support in the event of a correction. And here we see that the first support is at $25,745. Below we have a return to the channel where it is worth marking the support zone from $23,718 to $22,191. However, when we fall below this zone, we can see a drop to around $20,601. Looking the other way, in a similar way using the fib retracement tool, we can determine the places of resistance. And here we immediately see that the price is against a very important resistance at 0.786 fib at $28,832. While the next equally strong resistance is at $32,474. At this point, it is worth looking at the EMA cross 10 and 20, which nicely indicated the place of return to the uptrend, and what's more, when we turn on the EMA cross 50 and 200, we see that they also indicate a return to the uptrend after a prolonged downtrend. Please pay attention to the CHOP index, which indicates that the energy has been exhausted, which can give a local sideways trend. The MACD indicator indicates an uptrend, while the RSI is at the upper limit of the range. The price may go higher, but it is worth keeping in mind the upcoming rebound as after each increase. As the second chart in today's review, we will check ETH against USDT, also on a single-day time frame. We will start by marking with the yellow lines the uptrend channel in which the price is currently moving at its upper border. Now let's move on to marking the places of support. We will use the fib retracement tool to mark the supports, and as you can see, we have the first support at $1,662, the second support at $1,547, the third support at $11,456, and then we have support at $1,365. Looking the other way, we can also mark the places where the price should encounter resistance on the way to increases. And here we have the first very strong resistance at the price of $1,827, from which the price is currently rebounding. But when we manage to overcome it and positively test it, we can see an attack on the resistance at the price of $2,029. At this point, it is worth looking at the EMA cross 50 and 200, which indicate that after a very long downtrend, it turned into an uptrend. The CHOP index indicates that the energy has been used. The MACD indicator indicates an uptrend. On the other hand, the RSI is moving around the upper limit. There is some room for growth, but it is worth bearing in mind the upcoming price recovery. The last one in today's chart is the chart of SOL in pair to USDT on a one-day interval. First, we will use the blue lines to mark the downtrend channel where the price is moving at the upper border. Moving on, we can move on to marking support areas when we start a larger correction. And here, in the first place, we have a support zone from $22.54 to $19.88 in which the price is currently located. Then we have support at the price of $17.68, and then at the price of $15.14. Looking the other way, we see that the price has rebounded from the important resistance zone from $23.44 to $27.05, which so far has no strength to break. However, if we manage to break out of this zone above, we have another resistance at the price of $32.24. As we can see, EMA cross 10 and 30 indicate the beginning of an uptrend, but be careful if it will not be a false break. Please look at the CHOP index, which indicates that we have the energy for the upcoming move. The MACD indicates that we are in an uptrend, while the RSI is moving around the middle of the range, which gives room for increases after a small correction. Technical analysis is provided by a third party and for informational purposes only. It does not reflect the views of CryptoDaily, nor is it intended to be used as legal, tax, investment, or financial advice.